Hi everyone, welcome to another video of the orchid shelf here in beautiful Naples, southern Italy. Today I'm going to talk to you about my Blc Copper Queen H&R. I've got the name tag here if you're interested. Let me just dropped it a second. Wait, look. So Blc Copper Queen H&R. I believe the H&R is an abbreviation for the actual breeder that created the hybrid. I should actually look up what it means. But I know that many orchids by this particular breeder are famous for being extremely vigorous and easy flowering. And I saw this orchid online described as a very easy grower and easy bloomer by various YouTubers such as Nicole Diana, I believe. And I really fell in love with it and thought it would make a great addition to my collection. And it's really not been disappointing me. As you see, I've got 3 flowers on the orchid at the moment. 2 on this pseudobulb and the 3rd one here. Let me just add that based on the color of the flower, you can actually see which one is the oldest and which one is the newest. So this one, the darkest one, which has this wonderful reddish color, is the newest one. So this one just opened 1.5 days ago, and even though it's on the same flower stalk, this one opened a bit earlier, like 3 days ago maybe. And this is why the two flowers have different colors. And I love this fact about this plant, that that one plant can have flowers of these different shadings, and it really looks like I've got, a blooming sunset in my collection. And the oldest flower, this actually has been open for a week already, and I believe that this is around the color that it's expected to be. So it's more like yellow golden with this lip that has these red freckles, and has various shades of orange in it as well. What I find interesting is that, as you see, the pseudobulb in the back and the leaf actually is much larger than the pseudobulb here and the leaf attached to it or growing out of it. And you see the tip got chipped off a bit, and I wonder whether that's a reason that the leaf stopped growing at some point. But even though you would expect that leaf and pseudobulb, which is much larger, to have more flowers, actually this one bore just 1 flower and this one 2. And it seems to me that the plant is also very good at sharing nutrients across its different leaves and pseudobulbs, and it is an insanely vigorous grower. Yes, let's talk about the growth pattern and the leaves. As you see, let me have a look at myself. So very rarely, so this is one of the oldest pseudobulbs, which are very small. And this one is bifoliate. So you can see how this is clearly a hybrid of different Cattleya-type orchids, because sometimes the pseudobulbs produce 2 leaves, whereas most pseudobulbs actually produce 1 leaf. And whether or not it flowers is independent of how many leaves the pseudobulb has. This Blc, which is quite a mouthful, is a cross between Cattleya, Toshie Aoki, RLC Toshie Aoki, and Cattleya Richard Mueller. And I was told by various YouTubers and information online that any Richard Mueller hybrid tends to be extremely vigorous and easy blooming, and I can really confirm that for my orchid as well. Yes, let's talk about the growth habits. So for example, let me introduce you a bit into the growth history of this orchid, because then you will understand how crazily well-growing and easy-growing this has been for me. So let me have a look. All of these pseudobulbs that you see growing upwards towards the artificial lights, all of these are new and have grown since I got this orchid like a year ago. So can you believe how many pseudobulbs it just produced after I got it? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6, I believe. This one has been maturing. It's one of the newest pseudobulbs, and it got basically in the shape that you see here, the one that's more inclined towards that direction. Obviously, I got the pot, I got the plant, like the pot was here, so these leaves would actually grow upwards. But I remember I read in some advice online, I don't remember exactly whether it was a YouTube video or a web page, that for Cattleya-type orchids, it can be beneficial to incline the plant like this when you repot it, just because then it's easier for the plant to root better into the new pot. And that's what I did, and actually it does help a lot. It just creates some space issues, so whatever plant you have standing next to it, you kind of have to put, around these leaves. So 2 or 3 years later, when the plant actually, drops the leaf on the oldest pseudobulbs, I don't think it's a problem, but, it can become a bit straggly. But it definitely helps with the rooting when you repot the plant. When I got the plant, I repotted it immediately, as I always do. And let me take it out of the pot. And I just wanted to show you a bit the mixture that I use and how much this plant has been growing for me. I swear to you, I've never had an orchid, especially a Cattleya-type orchid, that just grows so vigorously and so fast. It's absolutely insane. These, you see green root tips smiling at me. So basically, what usually happens when I repot a Cattleya-type orchid is that a lot of the old roots have to be removed, and only a few of the new roots stay. I usually try to time it at a time when the orchid is still in growth, but with new orchids, especially Cattleya-type orchids, very often I can't guarantee that, because I just get the orchid and then I just hope that the orchid will be growing. I did see some fresh root tips when I got the plant new, but this didn't necessarily guarantee that it would just grow into the new pot, but it just settled in immediately and gave me these very, very thick Cattleya-type roots. You see a bit of root burn here because I've got very calcareous water and I don't get to have any mineral-free water here because it's too expensive to get that. So I just use tap water. And you see all of these roots have grown within the last maybe, year, 10 months, I don't know. And it's absolutely insane. Within a week, I can just basically see the roots. I could just watch them grow. And look at this mixture. So I have a mixture of perlite, of bark chips, medium size, medium to large, and I put in some styrofoam chips just because I have them, and that gives a bit of an airiness to the substrate. I also use big pieces of lava rock and big pieces of pumice. and it creates a lot of air pockets for the roots to grow into and to benefit from as well. And I have to say, for this type of Cattleya orchid, this mixture is pretty perfect for my environment because it stays moist but airy at the same time. And it sounds a bit strange, but really I can't overwater this plant. You know, the plant is now growing out of the potholes, even though I just replanted it a year ago. And, you know, you see another fresh root tip here. I'm really, really proud of how well it has been growing under my care. And I believe actually it will grow like this under anyone's care, even if you don't know that much about orchids, because it's such an insanely well-growing orchid, and the blooms are stunning. I believe the importance is just light and consistency of care with respect to watering and fertilizing. I water it once a week, and during hot summers more than once a week, 2 to 3 times per week. But one of these waterings will always be, you know, a good soak of a couple of hours. And you might actually say that, you know, I might be insane to soak a plant for that long, but actually it's been fine, you know, and the plant has been growing very well. I give it MSU tap water or well water fertilizer, and every couple of weeks I give it algae extract, which I believe is also beneficial for its growth and root production. I try not to exaggerate with the algae extract though, because too much, what's it called in English? Sorry, I'm having a blackout. Too much of the N in the fertilizer, the N component, can actually stimulate growth so much that the plant won't bloom. So I want to kind of prevent that. But I swear to you, like whatever you give it, it just takes it on, and it's very, very happy. It's insane. I'm quite speechless about how well this has been growing. As you see, I keep it quite close to the grow lights, so maybe this is like maximum 4 inches or something, and I think that's a good distance away from this Cattleya-type orchid, which requires very, very, very high light. So before it got too cold, actually during the autumn, when the ratio between sunshine and heat is quite perfect outside, I would keep the plant for a couple of days outside on the balcony, especially when it rains, to get it a good flush. And it seems to be very beneficial for the plant, you know. No matter the artificial light, I still believe that, you know, sunlight from outside is really the best for any plant. And if you look at the leaves, it's very sturdy, it's very, very thick, so that it's actually surprisingly resistant to pests. I've got a pet, but I've got pests as well sometimes. The pet is not the nuisance, but the pests are. And it's very sturdy, it's very resistant, and it enjoys really, really high levels of light. You can see that this plant has developed hardly any red tinges, which others in my collection have, in spite of the very high light that it gets from the grow lights. And I hope that it will actually continue developing like this. One last thing to say is about the sheathing, so the sheaths from which blooms grow. So this one, for example, is an empty sheath which produced no blooms, and this was one of the first pseudobulbs that grew after I repotted the plant and after I bought it. And I have a number of actually pseudobulbs which produced empty sheaths for me, or like no sheath. For example, these ones have produced no sheath. And I got a bit worried because I was thinking, okay, why is this just growing for me and not blooming? But maybe it's also just a question of maturity, so that it needs a minimum number of leaves and pseudobulbs for it to actually have the energy and the hormonal something dynamics that I don't understand to actually be ready to flower. So just keep it, you know, under highlight, keep it growing, keep it very moist. In my experience, you can't keep it too moist either. So for example, in August I have to leave, so I keep it all my orchids in like IKEA boxes where the water will come up to here, which sounds like a deadly sin, and all my orchids will rot away, but actually turns out that they're fine after a month. Yeah, so this orchid is really resistant, grows well, flowers beautifully. I couldn't detect a fragrance yet, neither during the day nor at night. It has some Brassavola nodosa parentage in it, so I was kind of hoping it would be fragrant, but mine isn't. But it really steals the show in my collection when it's in bloom. I actually don't know how long it will stay in bloom, but people say it stays in bloom quite a lot. Maybe a month or so, or even longer, I don't know. But yeah, the show is totally worth it, and I'm really, really happy about this orchid. All right then, yeah, I think I've told you everything so far. Just, yeah, let me know in the comments what you think about the orchids, and maybe you've got it as well, and tell me about your experiences. Okay, happy orchid growing, bye!